Greetings everyone. We're here with a video. Was the search warrant submitted by Davin Rose of Sausalito Police Department and issued by Mark Talamantes of Marin County Superior Court against Jeremy Portje valid, void, or unlawful? I like to say all praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds and creator of the universe. I like to say I love my mother, I love my father, I love our son, and I have love for the mother of our son. Table of contents. Introduction. Who is Davin Rose? What constitutes a valid search and seizure? What is Penal Code 115, filing a false document? What is Penal Code 118, perjury? What is Penal Code 470 to 471, forgery? Educational analysis of search warrant. Void, valid, or unlawful. Message to community, message to mankind. Special thanks, references. Introduction. Who is Jeremy Portje and why was he arrested? An independent journalist is fighting back after he was arrested last November while covering a homeless camp in Northern California. Journalist Jeremy Portje was arrested and had his video camera and cell phone seized while working on a documentary about life at the Marin Ship homeless encampment in Sausalito. Why is it important to analyze the validity of the search warrant? In viewing and analyzing said search warrant, we will see if these actions were warranted, and to gain an understanding to see if these processes help or hurt the community. Who is Davin Rose? Who is Davin Rose? He is a detective that works for the Sausalito Police Department. How many names does he go by? Davin Rose, Davin R. Rose, Detective Davin Rose. So he has many aliases. We don't know exactly who he is because he's saying that he's multiple roles or identities. We are not aware if Davin Rose has a DBA to do business as Detective Davin Rose. We don't know if he has an assumed name. So basically, he's stating that he's Detective Rose, but we have no paperwork other than the promotions that he's received from the Sausalito Police Department. Who is the real Davin Rose? This is a question that needs some answers. Is he a corporate fiction or a sub-corporation of the city of Sausalito as a police officer for Sausalito Police Department? That is yet to be determined because Davin Rose is wearing multiple hats. Is he a third-party witness? Doesn't seem that he was there to witness what happened between Jeremy Portje and the Sausalito Police Department. He could have been there, but not sure if he was there or not. So is he a third-party witness? Something to think about. Is he credible? Is he a credible individual? Is he a credible person? Is his witness? Is he a good judge of character? Does he have credibility? Is he competent in who he says that he is and his job duties? These are just things to think about. Next slide. So what constitutes a valid search and seizure? The Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Fifth Amendment, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime, unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So these are just some things to think about and basically have general knowledge and understanding, also pertaining to the events that happened with Jeremy Portje in the Sausalito Police Department. Next slide. So what is Penal Code 115, filing a false document? PC, short for Penal Code 115A. Every person who knowingly procures or offers any false or forged instrument to be filed, registered, or recorded in any public office within this state, which instrument, if genuine, might be filed, registered, or recorded under any law of this state or of the United States, is guilty of a felony. B. Each instrument which is procured or offered to be filed, registered, or recorded in violation of subdivision shall constitute a separate violation of this section. Next slide. What is Penal Code 118, perjury? Every person who have taken an oath that he or she will testify, declare, depose, or certify truly before any competent tribunal, officer, or person in any other cases in which the oath made by law of the state of California be administered willfully and contrary to the oath, states is true in any material matter which he or she knows to be false, and every person who testifies, declares, disposes, or certifies under penalty of perjury in any of the cases in which the testimony, declarations, depositions, or certification is permitted by law of the state of California under penalty of perjury and willfully states is true any material matter which he or she knows to be false is guilty of perjury. This subdivision is applicable whether the statement or the testimony, declaration, deposition, or certification is made or subscribed within or without the state of California. No person shall be convicted of perjury where proof of falsity rests solely upon contradiction by testimony of a single person other than the defendant. Proof of falsity may be established by direct or indirect evidence. Next slide. What is Penal Code 470, 471, forgery? 470. Every person who, with intent to defraud, knowing that he or she has no authority to do so, signs the name of another person or a fictitious person to any of the items listed in subdivision is guilty of forgery. Every person who, with intent to defraud, counterfeits or forges the seal of handwriting of another is guilty of forgery. C. Every person who, with intent to defraud, alters, corrupts, or falsifies any record of any will, codicil, conveyance, or other instrument, the record of which is by law evidence, or any record of any judgment of a court, or the return of any officer to any process of any court, is guilty of forgery. Every person who, with intent to defraud another, makes, forges, or alters any entry in any book of records or any instrument purporting to be any record or return specified in Section 470 is guilty of forgery. Next slide. So we have educational analysis of search warrant. What is contemporaneous notification device search notice of search warrant? So contemporaneous is like contemporary. So we have Senate Bill 178 Leno Privacy Electronic Communication Search Warrant. 1. Existing law provides that a search warrant may only be issued upon probable cause supported by affidavit, naming or describing the person to be searched or searched for, and particularly describing the property, thing, or things, and the place to be searched. Existing law also states the grounds upon which a search warrant may be issued, including, among other grounds, when the property or things to be seized consists of any item or constitute any evidence that tends to show a felony has been committed, or tends to show that a particular person who has committed a felony, or when there is a warrant to arrest the person. This bill would prohibit a government entity from compelling the production of or access to electronic communication information or electronic device information as defined without a search warrant, wiretap order, order for electronic reader records, or subpoena issued pursuant under specified conditions, except for emergency situations as defined. The bill would also specify the conditions under which a government entity may access electronic device information by means of physical interaction or electronic communication with the device, such as pursuant to a search warrant, wiretap order, or consent of the owner of the device. The bill would define a number of terms for those purposes, including, among others, electronic communication information and electronic device information, which the bill defines collectively as electronic information. So let's look at the initial paperwork. So this here is contemporaneous notification device search notice of search warrant, dated December 13, 2021. It says Jeremy Portje. His address is redacted. So in regards search of the Canon camera, 2 SanDisk memory cards, and iPhone XS or 10s. Let's scroll down a little bit. So dear Mr. Portje, these devices have been searched by peace officers of Sausalito Police Department pursuant to a search warrant issued on December 9th by the Honorable Mark Talamantes, Judge of the Marin County Superior Court. A copy of the warrant is attached hereto that includes a description of the items to be searched. These records were requested for a criminal investigation pertaining to Penal Code 243C, battery on a police officer with injury, Penal Code Section 69, obstruct executive officer, and Penal Code Section 182, conspiracy. If you wish to further information, you may contact me at that number. Detective Davin Rose, Sausalito Police Department, the address there, attachment. So we're looking at this notice that Davin Rose, or he's claiming to be Detective Davin Rose doing business as Detective Davin Rose, giving notice to Jeremy Portje that if he has any questions to contact him. We see that this paper or this notice has no bearing of the city of Sausalito, no insignia or logo of the state of California or the Sausalito Police Department. Detective Davin Rose has not signed this. There's no wedding signature on this. It just says attachment. This is not a sworn affidavit. He doesn't swear under penalty of perjury. This is not notarized. This is just a piece of paper that he typed up, trying to give it some kind of force as an affidavit. But this is an unsworn statement, and there's no way to measure the credibility of this statement because he hasn't sworn under oath. He has an oath of office, but we don't know if his oath of office, what name is on that, and we can't say whether his oath of office is valid. Some of the oath of offices that I've seen have not been valid because these said individuals are not using their full name as displayed on their ID or driver's license. So right here, as we look, this is some kind of false paper. There's no liability or no sworn statement. He's not swearing under God or with the notary present, and he just has an attachment. So this is what you would call void ab initio, void from the onset. So this would be false. No stamps and no seals of a court, nothing on there. So it's void. Falsification, unsworn falsification. Here we have a search warrant. State of California, County of Marin. It's stated there's no seals of the court, no clerk. It says the people of the state of California to any sheriff or peace officer in the County of Marin, state of California. Proof by affidavit having been this day made before me by Davin Rose that there is probable cause to believe that the property described herein may be found at the location set forth herein and that it falls within these ground indicated below by X. So as we scroll, we'll find what he X'd. It stated this man, Davin Rose, that's not his full name. That's a pseudonym because that there's no middle name. So we don't know what name is on his oath of office. We don't know what name he has on his peace officer license. So it's stated before earlier that this man is using multiple names or multiple entities. To put it constitutes any evidence that tends to show a felony has been committed or tends to show a particular person has committed a felony. Okay, we scroll down more. This is a designation of the items to search and examine, relating it to penal codes, and then the charges they're trying to attach to Jeremy Portje. Okay, we come down here and we have magistrate judge or Marin County Superior Court, State of California. It says Mark Talamantes. Doesn't say his name, it just has his signature. And we have a peace officer, Davin Rose, in the time of execution. So if the judge is a witness to Davin Rose's statement, this also would want to be notarized. So if Davin Rose is presenting this to the judge under oath, there is no sworn statement here. So this is just basically void ab initio. Doesn't say his name under that by the peace officer. Doesn't say what kind of judge Mark Talamantes is. Doesn't have his name spelt legibly. So this is void. No, it's bearing no seals. It's not stamped by the court. The judge signed it, but it's not saying who he is. So when you look at this, you won't know what the name is. We just know from hearsay evidence from the newspaper that Mark Talamantes accepted or gave permission with the warrant for the Sausalito Police Department to do this search warrant against Jeremy Portje. Let's also look at this more paperwork. Okay, so return on search warrant. Okay, this has a seal. Filed December 14, 2021 as James Kim, Court Executive Officer. Once again, James M. Kim, that's a pseudonym. Does he have a DBA for that? More than likely not. We have M. Herbert, Deputy. Does M. Herbert have a DBA for the pseudonym name? Most likely not. So we see I, the undersigned. So right now, this is also void because I would have to have a name. So this is Davin Rose making a statement right here. I, the undersigned. I, Davin Rose, the undersigned. But he did not put that. He didn't put this in the beginning who he was. I, Davin Rose, the undersigned, doing business as detective for Sausalito Police Department. So notice that right here is missing a key factor in this statement. This is inconsistency if he's not saying who he is, but then at the end he's saying who he is. So this is another void situation. Let's just scroll through this. This is 40 pages describing the items that were itemized and taken for the search and seizure. Okay, this is another statement by Detective Davin Rose. So again, he has Detective Davin Rose here on the bottom, Sausalito Police Department, but this is not sworn. It's stamped by the clerk, but this is not a sworn statement. So this detective could be saying anything because there's no liability attached to what he's saying. And it's stated this Davin Rose is wearing multiple hats. He's saying he's Detective Davin Rose. He's not using his full name. He hasn't presented any doing his business as a DBA that he could use these fiction names. This document is not notarized, so the notary could determine that he is who he says that he is. But this Detective Davin Rose is saying he's Detective Davin Rose. He's Davin R. Rose. He's Davin Rose. He's a peace officer. He's a detective. He's a third-party witness. He's an expert witness. All these things are in contradiction to the evidence code. So this is another reason why this is void and false, because a man is claiming multiple positions, and you're not able to do that in California evidence code. So just by looking at this, he's an incompetent witness, and he's acting as some kind of petitioner to petition this warrant that is lacking the credentials to be a valid warrant. So let's scroll down more. Okay, we have another paper titled search warrant, duplicate original, stamped and dated. These are the items known. Okay, we're just scrolling through. Okay, once again, we have a signature of magistrate. It bears Mark Talamantes' signature. This is not notarized. Davin Rose's signature doesn't say his name spelled out, Judge Talamantes or Mark Talamantes, and the same with Davin Rose. We have another affidavit for search warrant. Constitutes any evidence that tends to show a felony has been committed or tends to show a particular person has committed a felony. This is under seal, but this is also false. We're just scrolling here to get to the bottom part. This is stating some kind of incident with the police and Jeremy Portje, but we're just going through this to see. Okay, we have pictures of what appears to be a police officer indicating the injuries he got from an alleged scuffle with Jeremy Portje when they arrested him and took his camera, seized his items. Okay, we're just scrolling through. If you want to read this documents, they're in the Pacific Sun articles by Nikki Silverstein of the Pacific Sun relating to Jeremy Portje. You could click them from the article. Okay, so we're just scrolling down more. Okay, so now Davin Rose is saying that he's an affiant that wrote the affidavit, and Judge Talamantes' signature. It would be better if this is notarized, because once again, Mark Talamantes' name is not spelled on the bottom, illegible, or Davin Rose. This is sworn under penalty of perjury. It would just be better to have this document notarized so they could notarize the two signatures of these two individuals. And then once again with Davin Rose, him saying all these things, this evidence is not credible, because I don't believe that he was there to witness all this firsthand. So this is an underhanded way for this detective to put evidence that's not credible onto the court record and use false documents to obtain that warrant that they got. Let's go back to the slides. Let's go to the next slide. So void, valid, or unlawful, excuse me. Void, valid, or unlawful. So we say valid. Stated from some of the initial documents in that notice, it's not sworn under penalty of perjury. It doesn't have stamps or seals from the court. There's discrepancies in the paperwork, so I would say that it's not valid. Void, yes, void ab initio, meaning it's void from the onset. It looked like it could have been valid, but it wasn't. Prima facie, meaning that you think that it's valid because it's coming from the court and it's signed by the judge, but there's elements in there saying that it's not valid if you look at it with under your eye. And unlawful, in a manner of it being unlawful, yes, it's unlawful because these said individuals, Davin Rose, no one knows who he is. Does he have a valid oath of office? He's saying all these statements, and some of them are sworn, others aren't. It's unlawful that they seized this man property and took it from him. My understanding is that he received the property back, but from looking at the paperwork, it would seem that this whole search and seizure was unlawful. Nothing was attached to those documents like a bond. So I've heard, and not necessarily that it's hearsay, I haven't seen any paperwork that Sausalito is bankrupt, but they declared some kind of state of emergency. So for these processes, they would need to have bonded, meaning that they put some money up. These are not bonded processes, and they very unlawful. How they obtain this kind of evidence to get these warrants. So just for me looking at those documents, it's very unlawful. Next slide. So message community, message to mankind. Oh, it's all about love and peace. But there's an opposite to that, hate and war. And we promote love and peace. But, this is the duality or the dualistic nature of anything that would be the opposite, something in the middle or the extremes. But we want to, put our message out there and inform others of what's going on. Government corruption is a cancer. Yes, indeed, it is, from the bottom to the top, right to the root, all the way to the leaves. And it has to be cut out like they do in the hospital. So all of it would have to be cut out because cancer grows in the stages, and that's cancer. And corruption is similar analogy. Protecting journalism. So basically, a lot of this is hearsay, except for those that were actually present to witness what happened with Jeremy Portje in the Sausalito Police Department. We have journalists and they're getting harmed, and it was said that the police knew that he was a journalist. We don't know what happened, who was pressing who, or who said words or what, but it escalated and a unlawful warrant was obtained, and the paperwork is not credible. But we want to protect journalism to for its integrity and to have inform people and educate people on these kind of things. The city of Sausalito is on the world stage, yes. There's been a lot going on with the homeless population in Sausalito. Some things happened. There was an explosion and they had to declare state of emergency. There's been a lot of lawsuits and restraining orders against the Sausalito PD because of their actions or behavior towards the homeless and the public. They are on the world stage acting. They have a whole bunch of pending lawsuits against them. Hopefully they could get it together. They did have an oversight committee, and these are some of the reasons why they need the oversight committee. And this is the message to community. This is a message to mankind. Next slide. So special thanks and references. All praise be to Allah, the Lord of the heavens and the creator of the universe, or the Lord of the worlds, creator of the heavens, creator of the universe. I'd like to thank Nikki Silverstein and the Pacific Sun newspaper. And thank all you guys for viewing. Please like and subscribe and share. Thank you very much. Goodbye.